Today, we're fortunate enough to have both Jay Reagan and Greg Chin giving us insights into Pro Tools 12.6. Greg, a Pro Tools specialist, will show us some of the new features and give us some behind-the-scenes looks at how Pro Tools works. But first, Jay kicks us off and gets us ready for what Greg's about to share.
So we'll go through 12.6. I'm going to show you just a slide here of what we're going to cover. Greg's going to cover most all of the parts of 12.6. It's much more interesting to look at his Pro Tools screen than it is PowerPoint. So we'll talk about applying real-time effects to clips, editing layers, and adjusting fades more easily. Greg will add a few other things that are in 12.6. There's two things that I want to note. First is anybody that purchases Pro Tools currently, you're going to get any dot release. So we've changed it a little bit as we did it several months ago, over a year ago, where if you buy into Pro Tools, you're going to get anything that comes out within that year. So 12.6, 12.7, etc. will be part of your package. So if you're currently on the plan, you can go and get 12.6 installer, install this, and then use some of these features. Some of these features and functions are going to be Pro Tools HD only. The second thing I want to note is that you can upgrade your Pro Tools standard to Pro Tools HD for a price. So this is the first time we've offered this. HD is a standalone, so you can purchase Pro Tools HD software by itself and use it just on your computer without any hardware. Or you can trade up for a lesser price from standard Pro Tools to Pro Tools HD. So I'm going to just flip it over to Greg.
Bill, thanks again for having us. As Jay said, 12.6, some really great features. I'm going to focus on 3 of the top features, but and I'll go over a couple of the other ones as well. But really for 12.6 for Pro Tools, what we really wanted to do is really look at how we can enhance audio editing. Let's take a look at the top 3 features. So the first one is something we call clip effects. Now that's an HD only feature, but let me kind of get through it and we'll talk about how the standard Pro Tools user is able to benefit from that as well. So I've got a session here, a remix by a lovely gentleman by the name of Carmen Rizzo, a song called Low Roar. We're going to focus on the vocal here. So we'll kind of focus on the vocal here. So we've got a vocal. You can see here that it's broken up into some clips already. I've got some clip boundaries here. And typically for me when I'm editing, and a lot of times it's vocals, but it could be anything else, drums, keyboards, synths, whatever it might be. You tend to break things up in boundaries to move them around and do some quick editing. Sometimes, even though you can see here I've got an EQ and I've got a compressor here, you can also see I've got some volume automation. I might want to make some changes to a clip that only really needs to happen to that one specific clip or even a group of clips. So typically the current workflow is you either go through, if it's an EQ or a dynamics change I want to make, I can automate that, which is going to take some time. It's going to take me a few minutes to kind of automate that and then get it back to where it was for the next clip or the previous clip. Or I can use my audio suite set of plugins over here to kind of help me go through that. Now that's going to be a destructive process. You kind of have to do it, and it's kind of a set it, and then once it's done, it's a static kind of an operation, which is, we've been doing that for a long time. What we've done with clip effects is kind of created something that kind of sits in between. It's an entirely different process, very low on CPU and RAM, and this is the way it looks. You can see up here, I've got my my universe window. Now, if usually if you're working in a really large session, you're going to use that window. A lot of people don't tend to use it, but we've actually made it really easy. We've made it dockable with our clip effects right here. So you can see here, I've got this tabbed view that I can actually click that little icon there, and I get my clip effects. There's also a shortcut for that, which is Alt-6. And here you go. There's our clip effects. Now, it might look a little familiar to you, and that's because it's based on our channel strip plugin, which is built into Pro Tools, which is actually built on our System 5 console from Euphonics. So really great, really great EQ, dynamics. We've also got a filter here. These are all interchangeable as far as the order of operations. So I just hit the Command key, and we can actually move these around. This is the default setting. You've got your EQ first, filters, and then dynamics. But if I want to move them around, I just hit my Command key, grab it right here at the top, and I can actually move the order around. So now I've got filter ahead. Now, how do we apply that? So it's done pretty much kind of in real time. As the clip is playing, I can actually make the change. So I've got this clip here. We'll use this one here. I'll make a boundary here. So we're just using this clip. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the EQ up, all the high end, and the mids, just so you can hear it. So very big change, just so we can hear it. Now you can see here, once I click on that clip, I actually now get a notification on the top right to let me know that I've got a clip effect for an EQ there. Same thing applies if I make any change to, let's say I do something with the dynamics. Same thing shows up, and now you can see that I've got a dynamic and an EQ change on that clip. Now, what's great about the clip effect, again, it's dynamic. If I wanted to go ahead and actually apply that to a different clip or different set of clips on this track or even another track, it's really easy to do that. You see here we've got a preset section here of 5 presets. And if I wanted to save this specific preset and use that on another clip or set of clips, I just hit my command key, choose the preset I want to save that to. It's now saved to that preset. So I can actually now go through if I wanted to do it on a different clip. Maybe I wanted to do it to these 2 clips, select them, hit my preset, and you can see here now that my clip effects are now assigned to that track. Again, same thing applies to a different track as well. If I wanted to do that on this little drum transient here, there's my preset. And if I zoom in here, you can see that it's applied. And of course, once I select a clip, you get a visual indicator in the actual clip effect of what's going on. So that's basically clip effects. Now, again, that's an HD only feature, but if you're a standard Pro Tools user, you're actually able to hear what's going on. So Bill, if I sent you a session via Cloud Collaboration or sent you the session via Dropbox or however, bring it to your house on a drive, and you open up the session and you're not an HD user, you're a standard Pro Tools user, you're still going to be able to hear the changes I've made with the clip effects. You can actually bypass them, render them, or clear them. Now you can't actually manipulate them and change it, but you still have access to it as far as being a standard Pro Tools user to be able to hear it, bypass it, render it, or clear it. And that's clip effects in a nutshell. So that's the first one. The second one, again, looking at how we really continue to make audio editing more efficient, is something we call layered editing. Now we actually have a new button here in the UI. This button right here turns layered editing on and off, and there are a few bits and pieces that go along with this. Now some of this stuff as we've been talking about, doing new versions, new dot updates pretty regularly. Back in version 12.3, one of the things we added was clip transparency. You're going to see that now. And now we've taken this a whole, really large step further. So let me kind of walk through that. So here on this vocal, again, it's broken up into some boundaries, some different clip boundaries. And one of the things, the first thing I'll show is with layered editing, of course, you see our transparent clips here. So I can always see where I'm moving my focus clip over a secondary one, the one that's in the background. Now, typically what tends to happen is before 12.6 in layered editing, if I were to go ahead and move this clip, this small clip here, which is the focused one, and drop it on top of that secondary clip, the one before it, of course, if I play it back, it's going to play back as I intend, as I got it edited there. But if I made a mistake and I needed to move the clip back, typically what would happen is that whatever portion of the clip I was over would disappear. Now, it's not, again, Pro Tools is non-destructive. I can always, undo it or, just pull it back out using my trim tool. But that's a kind of a long process if you're continuing to make an adjustment if you haven't quite gotten it right. Now, with layered editing, what I'm able to do is once I move that clip over another clip, a couple of things. The first thing you might notice here is this kind of 3D shadow. I've just zoomed in here a little bit. So you can see that my focused clip is overlapping the clip on the bottom, the secondary clip, the one that's not in focus. But that shadow is letting me know that I've got some information under there, to kind of contend with if I need to, and it's not actually erasing that. So if I go ahead and move this clip back, you can see that none of the boundaries, nothing was changed on that clip. But of course, it's going to play back as I intend. The way you see it is the way it's going to play back. So let me just go ahead and play that really quickly. Back up a little bit. So it plays back as intended, but again, all that original information is still underneath. So that's the first part. The second part deals with playlists. So we all know playlists is a great way specifically if you're recording, multiple takes of a vocalist or drums or whatever it might be, and you really want to kind of comp or create a master take out of all the recorded takes that you've done, we use playlists for that. Now, here in this track, I've actually got a playlist, and now one of the changes we've made in 12.6 is that your playlist marker here, if it's highlighted blue, that's letting you know that you actually have a playlist to deal with, a playlist selector. So if I click this playlist now, you can see that I've got 3 playlists. I can cycle through them. This is the typical way you would cycle through them, or you can actually right-click and expand them all. But to get through your playlist, this is kind of the way you tend to do it right now. So I've got a dry vocal, which is the main one we're working with, an effects trial that I was working on to try some different cool effects with, and then a rough, which I'm just kind of playing with. Now, one of the things we've added in 12.6 is a shortcut that allows us to kind of cycle through these really quickly. So let me show that to you. Very simple. It's just Shift and then the arrow up or down key. So you can see now I'm cycling through my playlist really quickly using the up and down key with the Shift combined with the Shift key. So, well, that's great and that's easy, but there's actually an added benefit to that now. So one of the things we've done, let me get rid of that clip there. Let me move this one out here just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So now I've got a clip here. And as I showed you before with the layered editing, of course I can make that change and it's going to play back as intended. But what happens if my focus clip is larger than the clip I'm moving over? So that clip underneath there is now totally covered up. Typically what would happen once I let my mouse button go, it's going to push that clip away and delete it unless I undo it. Now what it's going to do, you can see the blue boundary lines there. Once I let go of my mouse button here, so now I can actually cycle through my playlist. And there it is. That's the piece I just moved down to its own playlist now because I just covered it up using using a larger clip. So it actually creates a new playlist for you. Of course, I can always go back and undo it as many times as I need to and get it back to where it was if I wanted to. But it's just a more efficient way to deal with it, so you don't actually lose anything or have to worry about diving into your clip then to find it. Now the same thing happens if I were to record over these 2 takes, it would automatically, anything I record over fully on the clip, it's going to push that clip down to a new playlist. So, and of course, we want to make sure that we maintain the kind of the legacy way of doing things. So of course, everything you're seeing here can be turned on or off. So with layered editing, again, you can turn that on or off right here. And there are some changes you can make here as far as the way you see the waveforms with the overlap crossfades if you wanted to turn that off for whatever reason, which I don't know why you would want to turn that off. Maybe you've got an older CPU that not chugging along so great. You can turn some of that stuff off. So that's layered editing. The third thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, and this is one of my favorites, is the way we handle fades inside of the edit arrange window. So typically, as you might remember, back in 12.3, we added batch fades. So instead of having to grab one clip, pull up your fade shortcut, and then do the fade, you can actually now select a group of clips. Let's say those 3, using my Command F shortcut, I can actually now batch fade all of those at one time. So that's great. But what we wanted to really kind of enhance is keeping you in the workflow zone of really being inside the session and having less windows and menus pop up. So one of the things we've done, of course, that you've got the fade shortcut. If I wanted to apply a fade, I can quickly do that by just dragging on the boundary, or whether it's on the front of the clip or the back of the clip. But if you've ever wanted to make a change to the clip, typically you'd have now go into your fade menu and then make the change here. If I wanted to change the curve, the slope, etc., I have to get into that menu. Now what we've done in 12.6 is made this dynamic and contextual as well. So as you can see here, as I mouse over, as I move my mouse over kind of the equilibrium section of the fade here, I can actually now dynamically change the fade, and of course you get some visual feedback as to what's going to happen there. Additionally, if I right-click, I've got my fade menu right here. If I wanted to change the curve, I can do that here as well. And again, then there you go. So you can actually see that as well. Very subtle, but very powerful feature. And again, keeps you really in that workflow mentality and keeps you really kind of where you want to be. And that's some of the fade changes we've made in 12.6. Just really quickly, we made a lot of some stability changes under the hood. I mean, we continue with bug fixes as well. So it's a combination of features and bug fixes, and we really try to get these out as quickly as possible. The last thing I just wanted to show really quickly is another UI change we've made here. So a couple of things. We now have a task manager button, which those of us who are using cloud collaboration, typically we'd have a shortcut, that we use to bring up the task manager so we can see the tracks going up and down. Of course, if you're relinking tracks or any other type of task going on in the background, you'll now get a visual indicator. This will actually start rotating green to let you know that there's some tasks going on. Of course, if I can just click it and quickly bring up the task manager. I don't have any tasks going on in the background, so there's nothing going on there. The other one, really quickly, is this freeze all button. So if I right-click on the freeze all button, I can actually now, instead of having to go through and selecting tracks specifically to freeze, I can actually freeze all the tracks I need to freeze. Maybe I need to freeze just virtual instrument tracks, just auxiliary tracks, or just audio tracks. And if I can select any number of those and then click on it to freeze any combination of those. Makes it super simple. Again, I use freeze a ton in cloud collaboration when I'm collaborating with clients. Maybe a virtual instrument that I've got that they don't have, but I need them to hear and kind of see what I've done. I can just freeze those tracks really easily. But of course, you can do it, if you just want to save some CPU. And this is just a really quick, more efficient way to do it. And that's some of the other stuff under the hood on 12.6.